Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family. Today on Sue's Healthy Minutes, I want to replay episode 103. Every It's the Bread testimony is amazing, and I do not believe we can ever get tired of hearing them, even if for a second time. We often get asked questions if we have ever heard any testimony about a certain health issue. We now have so many It's the Bread stories, especially on Sue's Healthy Minutes, that it's easy to forget what we've heard in a specific story. For me, I never get tired of hearing or sharing the same story over and over. If you've ever heard me speak, you know how much I love to share these testimonies. It's always encouraging to hear them again, and I never know who might be hearing them for the very first time. Today, as I was preparing to write my episode for this week, I came across a card with a name written on it. The name was Jennifer Murray. She had handed me this card after a class at Bread Beckers where we spoke just briefly. Her contact information and a brief sentence was written on the card. The sentence read, "The one who didn't have to get iron transfusions after 7 years of needing them." I then remembered her powerful testimony and felt that hers was the story that needed to be replayed today. So I hope you enjoy this replay of episode 103 of Sue's Healthy Minutes with Jennifer Murray. Today on Sue's Healthy Minutes, it's time for another It's the Bread story, and I am super excited to share this testimony with you. My guest today is Jennifer Murray. I spoke with Jennifer after a cooking class at Bread Beckers. I really don't remember all that she shared with me that day, but she left me with an index card with her name and email address written on it, and these words: "The one who didn't have to get iron infusions after 7 years." I've been carrying this card around in my journal for several months now, waiting for the opportune moment to reach out to Jennifer about sharing her story on my podcast. And today is that day. Jennifer, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be my guest on Sue's Healthy Minutes. I always like to begin by asking you to share just a little bit about yourself and how you came to hear about Bread Beckers and Real Bread. I know you've got quite a health journey to share, so you just take it away and just share whatever comes to your mind.
Thank you, Sue. I'm so excited to be here and share my story. It's truly a testament. So I am from Rockingham. It's a teeny tiny town in North Carolina. And I grew up with whole foods. My mom and dad believed in gardening, and my mom stayed home and she, tended to the garden. My dad worked. And so we were very healthy. I had 2 sisters. And then it was time for college, and processed foods came along.
Yep.
And yep. And my health went downhill. I became anemic. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, Epstein-Barr, the list goes on. And so, anyhow, B12 deficiency, that was a big one. And they started putting me on all kinds of supplements and things. And iron was a big problem. My doctor said, "Jennifer, you're going to have problems keeping your iron up, which is going to lead to probably blood transfusions later." And I was like, no way,
You were in college.
this was when I was in college, and I'm 45 now. So the journey kept on going. I married actually my best friend from 8th grade. I'm going to take it back just a little bit because it'll make sense, because my mother-in-law is the one who introduced me to this wonderful bread. So my husband and I met in 8th grade. His stepdad moved to North Carolina in our 8th grade year, and we lived a street over from each other, and we played together every day. And then he worked with the railroad, and they were transferred again at the end of our 8th grade year. But we vowed that we would be married one day. So,
oh my goodness, that's a story in itself. Oh,
it is. My parents were in love with Brad. I know your husband's name is Brad too.
It is. Oh.
So my parents threw him a going away party. They just loved Brad. And my mom would say, y'all are going to have the cutest babies. And I'd say, Mom, please be quiet. And so anyhow, and his parents loved me. I would go to their house, and his mom would tell you I ate a whole jar of pickles one time when I came over. I loved pickles. Anyhow, our families loved each other. It was just a match made in heaven. And anyhow, we were just soulmates. We really were. And, the plan just played out. It really did. So, sorry I'm getting off topic, but it's going to make sense.
No, I love it. I love it.
So anyhow, they had a going away party for Brad, and we were sitting on the swing set in the backyard of my parents' house, and we were crying, and both of us, I was devastated that he was leaving, and he was too. And he looked at me and said, "You're going to be my wife one day. I know we're just best friends, but you're my soulmate, and by the time we're 23, we will be married. Now, I know we need to see other people and do that kind of thing, but save me for last." And I said, I feel the same way.
Oh, my goodness.
So we did. We, went to college, and he dated and I dated. And in college, he called me, and he had broken up with his girlfriend. I had broken up with my boyfriend. It was the same week. And it was like I had dated a guy for 3 years, and he had one for 2 years. It was the same week we had broken up. And he said, "We broke up." I said, "We did too." And so we started dating, and the rest is history. He proposed to me on that swing in my parents' backyard, where he told me we were soulmates. And
you're about to make me cry. I'm so Okay, go ahead.
So his mom is my second mom. I love her. You hear these horror stories about mother-in-laws, but when I came to your class, that's who I was with. She is, and I'll cry talking about her because I truly, I love her.
Wow.
And she introduced me to the bread. So she gave me, this is how I was introduced to the bread. We go on vacation together, and it was in July of 2022, and she had made some of the bread. She'd watched your videos about the health benefits, and she is a health nut. And so anyhow, I tasted the bread and was like, this is delicious. It can't be good for you. She was like, it is good for you. So anyhow, she's like, my other children aren't really interested. She has 2 daughters, and then Brad is her son. And so she was like, "I'm so glad you're interested." And I'm like, I want to know how to make this. And so she was excited. I wanted to do it with her. And for my birthday was October 18th, and she looked online, and the Bosch mixer was on sale. So she said when she looked, it would be delivered October 18th, which is my birthday. And she said, that was just a God thing. So she had to get it. And so she had it delivered. And I mean, I'm blessed to say the least, because not many mother-in-laws would give their daughter-in-law that for a birthday present.
Very true. Wow.
Yeah. So she not only did that, but she gave me all the ingredients. And so I started making the bread. Now, I'm going to back up and say I battled with my iron to the point where my doctor called me years before, after I'd had my 2 children. Brad and I got married. We had 2 children. We have a daughter who is about to be 21. Oh my gosh. And I know. And a son who is 18. And the doctor called and she said, "Are you sitting down?" She said, "Because you need to be. Your ferritin is 2. And she said, "I don't know how you're even working." I've been in the education field for, close to 19 years before I resigned. Now I'm at home, making bread and and a lot of other stuff I'm making with your recipes, but having fun, and doing my makeup business. But anyhow, so she said, "You should not be doing anything. You should have no energy." And I knew I was tired, but I just, kept going.
Go on. Moms do that.
Moms do that. Moms, they don't rest.
And, when was this that she called and said your ferritin is 2?
This was 2018, I believe.
Okay.
And
you hadn't started doing the bread yet. This was
no.
Were you still struggling with the Epstein-Barr and the B12 and?
Yeah.
We're still pretty much seeing medical
yes
for these things. Yeah.
Right. But I didn't know how bad the iron was at this point.
Yeah.
So I had not had any infusions at this point. So this is when the iron infusions started.
Yeah.
And they were sending me for a blood transfusion because the ferritin was low, but my blood, my hemoglobin was 6.9. And, when it gets that low, they want you to go ahead and get blood, which I was terrified. I did not want anybody else's blood, and that sounds silly, I know, but I said, "Can you put a needle in Brad and, pump that on over?" And she said, "Absolutely not, Jennifer." And she said, "Y'all aren't the same blood type, and that's not how this works." And I said, I don't like all that stuff. So I went to the hospital. Somehow it was at 7 when I got there, and I just walked my little tail on out. I'm 5 foot. And I called her and I said, "I'm good. I'm at 7. She said, "Walk on back in there." I'm not a good patient, by the way.
And I'm not very good either. What do they want it to be? What is normal for our listeners?
Well, you want it to be above 7, which is still low. But when it's above 7, they won't do a blood transfusion. So I was right at 7.
You were right there. Yeah.
Yeah. But my ferritin was so low, I needed iron. Yeah. Which ferritin is the iron stores, which carries the iron to your blood cells. And I don't know that I'm saying all the right medical terms, because I'm definitely not in the medical field. Don't want to be. But she said, "Get back in there. You're going to get an iron push," is what it's called, which means they're going to push the iron into your body very fast. And my body was so weak, it could not handle it. And I went into anaphylactic shock. That was one of the scariest things I've been through. And poor Brad, it was right after Christmas. He was there with me, and all I remember is this sweet little nurse was there with me, and we had gotten to 8. I don't know if it's CCs or I'm not sure. Anyway, and they had to push 10, And I'm not a passer outer. Brad passes out all the time. But I said, I'm feeling weird, Brad. I said, I'm getting hot and I just don't feel right. And he said, you're about to pass out. And I said, I don't know. And he said, just lay back and relax. Now, this sweet little nurse was there the whole time, and she was like, okay, honey. Well, when I woke up, that sweet little nurse was going, Jennifer! And I was like, whoa, where did the sweet nurse go? and there were like 15 people in the room, and that was not, prior to that, it was just me, the nurse, and Brad.
Yeah.
And it was white coats everywhere. So I just looked at her and I said, hey, she said, you're okay. And I just remember this doctor was furious. This one doctor, he said, whoever ordered this, he was so mad. He said, her body is too small for this push and too weak. Never again. I mean, he was yelling. And I was just like, it's all right. I was trying to calm him down. It's okay. And then I said, where's Brad? And it was so funny because, and of all things, he came out and he said, I have you a Hawaiian roll. And he was like, I brought you a Hawaiian roll to eat and a Sprite. And I'm like, okay. And so anyways, long story longer, they sent me up. It's like 30 miles from us because we live in a small town. There's not a lot here, to the cancer center where they do like chemo and stuff for a drip, which is like just a longer, iron infusion.
Yeah.
And so I had to start doing that every year. And it was about every 6 months because I was so low on iron that it wouldn't hold. It just wouldn't hold.
Yeah.
My B12 was low. Everything, like so many vitamins were just, I was depleted. They found, they were worried that I was like bleeding out somewhere maybe, but that wasn't the case. I just was depleted. I started eating this bread, and in 1 year, of eating this bread, I went back to the doctor. They tested my blood, and my numbers were perfect.
Wow.
And I had had to get another infusion.
Wow. So you go to the doctor and you get your blood work done, right?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, and let me say this too, those infusions, and I mean, for people who have to get them, it is not a fun process. It really drains you and takes a lot out of you. I mean, for me, I was out for 2 days. I mean, it would make my chest hurt, my head hurt. I felt sick for 2 days at least. Not only that, but when you talk about finances, we're talking $3,600 out of pocket. That's after insurance.
Wow. Every time. And you were doing this twice a year.
That's right.
And that's just a small part, probably. You were probably doing other things to treat the other issues as well, right?
Oh, yeah. And we're talking medicine all year. We're talking, and I'm not even... Oh, when I went to your classes, I've been to 2 of them. I've learned so much. I mean, we've started eating, more whole foods. Now, this has been a learning process and a learning curve for us, but laying off a lot of the processed foods. But we started kefir, and get this, my husband and I have been on Prilosec for 15 years. So we came to your class, and I can't remember when it was. It's been several months ago. I want to say 3 or 4 months ago. I came to your holiday class too, which was phenomenal. But so good.
And we served the kefir.
Yes, but when I came like 3 or 4 months ago, you did too. So I came home, I got the starter, and we started drinking the kefir. We're completely off the Prilosec.
That is so great. We hear this all the time. People with acid reflux, and
Yes.
they're just dealing with it, or they're on Prilosec or Nexium or whatever. They start drinking the kefir, and it's gone. How long did you drink the kefir before you quit having the problem?
Well, we stayed on it, and I kind of weaned myself off the Prilosec, but it probably took maybe a month.
Wow. Wow.
Well, and
15 years of something, and then a month on
15 years, and I can go down my list of medicines that I came off. I was taking B12 supplements 15 years off of that. Get this, Adderall. I'm ADHD, been diagnosed 15 years off of it.
15 years on it, and now 2022, so not quite, so a year and a half on real bread.
Right.
All this. No more Adderall, no more B12, no more iron infusions, no more Prozac. How can someone say they can't afford to do this? Oh my God.
That's it. I mean, and we have a Wednesday night women's group. It's called Wildflowers, and I mean, I just want to tell everybody about it because it is such a life-changing experience. And I mean, this, I say it sounds silly, but it really doesn't. When I started with my first batch of bread, I prayed over it. It's a spiritual journey, and it seriously healed my body. And my daughter, she's watched it happen. And when she came to your class, I don't know if you remember her coming up to you and us talking, but she got very emotional when you said the prayer before you started your class. Yeah. But it's because she knows, and she's watched it happen before, you started the class. She has watched what it's done for not just me, but my family and my mom, and even the digestive system. The other thing that the doctor said is, Jennifer, you're going to have to be on Miralax every day. And I was like, this is insane. Are you serious? I mean, seriously? No, sir. This bread, and my mom can attest to, I make her bread and she eats it every day and has no digestive problems anymore. I do not take Miralax. And I think that's the name of it because I don't buy it anymore.
So, you were taking it as well.
Yes. So gone. And I'm go to the bathroom, no problems every day. I mean, sorry if that's TMI, but
no,
these are just, it's something people need to hear.
They do. This is so amazing. Did they ever find out or diagnose you with anything that was causing such severe anemia? And did they ever say?
They never did. And, I hate that. I feel like they just slap on a diagnosis. Here's your medicine.
Yeah.
But no, they just said, it could be from having two children. It could be, but I had it before children. They said it could be your period. But no.
Yeah. I think it's important here if I pause just a little bit in your story, and I have to mention vitamin E.
Right.
This is not the first testimony we've heard about people that had to get regular infusions, because of anemia, severe anemia. And I tell you, vitamin E just absolutely intrigues me. And one of the richest food sources is wheat, grains, beans, whole grains and beans, particularly wheat. In fact, so many vitamin E supplements they get it from wheat germ oil. But so I've spent 30 years studying vitamin E, and So I'm going to try to explain this as simply and briefly as possible as I can. I hate to oversimplify, but I don't want to do a whole biochemical lecture here. But despite a wide variety of symptoms produced by vitamin E deficiencies, vitamin E appears to have really only one function in the body. It's known as an antioxidant. It prevents fatty acids and fat-like substances from being destroyed in the presence of oxygen. We all hear that term antioxidant. Well, that's what it literally means. We're breathing. We need oxygen to live, but we must have that vitamin E circulating in our blood to protect every cell in our body, because every cell in our body is made up, the membrane is made up of a fat and protein bond. Every cell membrane in our body. So every cell, every internal structure of every cell is made up of this fatty acid protein structure. And all the connective tissue in our body holds every cell together. I mean, that's how important vitamin E is. And so what happens is when we don't have enough vitamin E, which processed foods that you all of a sudden started eating in college, totally devoid of vitamin E, when we're not getting enough, it's just, where are we going to fall apart first? So what can happen is, if we don't have the vitamin E there protecting our cells, then those cell membranes become weak. Now, it's just a fact of life. All cells die, and then our body naturally produces more to replace that. But here's the thing. If your cells are so weakened that they're dying at a faster rate than they can be produced, so if they're weakened because of a lack of vitamin E and oxidation happening and breaking down that cell membrane, if they're dying at a faster rate than they can be replaced, then we have a problem. And in you, most probably what was happening, it was your red blood cells. That was your weak link. So if those red blood cells, every second of our life, 10 million red blood cells die, and our bodies replace it with 10 million more. Okay? But what if they're dying because of lack of vitamin E, oxidation is happening, weakened red blood cells, they're dying at a faster rate than can be reproduced and be, replaced. So that means you're going to be anemic, because red blood cells are what carries our iron, and it's not an iron deficiency. So that's why all these transfusions, yes, they pumped you up a little bit, but they didn't correct the problem.
Right.
So no amount of iron supplementation, no matter how you do it, is going to fix the problem unless you get those red blood cells healthy and strong, so they're not dying at a faster rate than you can replace them. So that's just, I've just heard it so many times, and it just is so fascinating to me that this can be the underlying problem. It's not always. There's other causes of anemia, but for women a lot, you have a monthly cycle, you lose blood, that's compounding the problem, Right. So this is just such a testimony of God's goodness and the perfect provision of whole grains and real fresh. And the thing is, wheat is one of the richest food sources of vitamin E, if not the richest, but it has to be freshly milled. Or anybody that's heard my teaching knows that once the flour is, left whole and intact, the grain is storable. But once that flour is milled, oxidation starts taking place, and so vitamin E will be quickly used up. So it has to be freshly milled to have all that great vitamin E in there. So that's just, wow, that's just fascinating, though, that they never really gave you a diagnosis. So, but that's just a little summary, really brief. I didn't want to take all the time. But now, how about your Epstein-Barr and your fibromyalgia and all of that? Are you still struggling there, or?
I feel great. I mean, I don't ever, they haven't done any tests on that. I don't ask for it.
Yeah.
So,
why? Feeling the pain or any of that. All of that has gone away.
So I feel great. I mean, I feel the best I've ever felt. And like I said, when I sent you a message, I'm going to the gym. I haven't been to a gym probably since college. But I mean, my energy is back, and that says a lot too. Because I mean, it hasn't been there.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to the gym, and this is only day 2, but I'm there.
So you eat pretty much exclusively. I'm sure you might like get it out or something like that, but you're making all the bread for your family, right?
Oh yeah. Now I'll tell you this. My husband, at first he was like, "Oh, I don't know about this. I'm going to still buy my, store-bought bread." We have not bought store-bought bread in a year. And if we get down to, a loaf, he'll open the freezer and he'll go, "Jennifer, now you better get in the kitchen." We're getting low.
I think you told me that at one of the classes. You were like, you better get, we need bread. You got to make bread.
Yeah, and he loves it. He loves to come in and smell the bread cooking. He gets so excited. But, and I love making the pita and the tzatziki mix. Oh, so good.
That's one of my husband's favorites too.
Oh, so good. But yeah, so I mean, we keep, when I come for the classes, we stock up on the stuff because, we're about 6 hours from Atlanta, and I feel like your wheat is the cleanest. And so, we try to come to the classes and stock up then. And, but yeah, I do not buy bread from the grocery store anymore, and I trade out my sugar with the honey granules and sucanat. We've tried to make all that transition. So we've really done a big turnaround in our household for sure.
In 1 year and a half, after 15 years of being on medication and twice a year having these infusions and anaphylactic shock experience and alcohol and Miralax and B12. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I'm so excited. I'm
grateful. I'm grateful to my mother-in-law for introducing me to you and for what you're doing, your missions. It changes lives. It really changes lives, and that is God. That's God. You've changed my life. Physically, financially, it is a spiritual journey. It is. I really, I try to keep spreading it. That's what I'm doing every time I make a loaf. Is I pray over it. I try to give it out. And hope it helps somebody too.
Yes. Wow. And we've had so many testimonies, especially our wart testimonies. People will say, my neighbor a loaf of bread because I was telling her my child had warts and their warts went away,
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you said another thing that now you're going to the gym because you have energy.
Yes.
So often we think of being healthy as just not being sick.
That's right.
And that's not all it is.
No, not at all.
Being healthy is being able to do what God called me to do, not being dependent on medicine. And I'm not saying there's times and places for medicine, that's for sure. But just having the energy to go to the gym and lead a vivacious and energetic lifestyle and not be going, I'm too tired to go do this, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. And I just, these things must have been nearly debilitating. And for you to raise children during all this feeling
I didn't realize how tired I was. And looking back now, I remember going in one of the last times before I had to start getting infusions. I remember going in and the lady was taking my blood, and my veins were always hard to find because it was so bad. But she stuck me one time, couldn't get it. And she said, well, honey, let's do the other arm. And it was one of those long benches. And instead of scooting over, I laid down. And so she could get my other arm. I laid down on that bench and she said, honey, sit up and slide over here. I was like, this is terrible.
You're like, I'm too tired.
That's how tired I was. And I did not realize until I was, thinking back, I laid down for her to take my blood. I mean, that is terrible.
Oh my goodness. Oh gosh, Jennifer, your story is just amazing. Not just your health journey. I love your husband and how y'all met. And so I just want to really thank you for taking the time out of your day to share your story. And just, are there any closing words of encouragement you would like to share with our listeners before we close this out?
Yes, I did. I have a Bible that I use every day. It's a journaling Bible. It helps me process God's word, especially, like I said, I do have ADHD, and this Bible is a 1-year Bible, so you can read it in 1 year, but it ends each day with Proverbs, and it's so funny. Today's message, I thought this was really surreal, so I wanted to just share this, if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind, and it's probably an appointed message.
Yes. Okay, so it's Proverbs 4:20, and it says, my child, pay attention to what I say. Listen carefully to my words. Don't lose sight of them. Let them penetrate deep into your heart, for they bring life to those who find them and healing to their whole body. And I thought, oh my gosh, don't ignore this. I'm so grateful for the healing that has taken place in my body. And I have no doubt that it's the bread. I have no doubt that it was God's plan for this. It was God's plan for my mother-in-law to find you and for this to all happen. But for people to hear this and that they can experience the same results if they are suffering from iron deficiency or anemia, that it's not as hard as they may think it is to find a different route. And it's not always medicine and I know sometimes it has to be that way, but I was told that I would have to get infusions for the rest of my life. Those were the words I was given. And I remember coming home devastated because I dreaded those days with a passion. And God is the ultimate healer.
Yes.
And we've got to pay attention to those words that he gives us.
Yes.
And I just wanted to end with those words. Yeah. I just thought that was amazing for today.
Yes. Would you read them one more time before I close?
I will. So it's Proverbs 4:20. My child, pay attention to what I say. Listen carefully to my words. Don't lose sight of them. Let them penetrate deep into your heart, for they bring life to those who find them and healing to their whole body.
Wow. Well, your testimony has encouraged me, and I know it has encouraged all of the listeners today. I just continue to be amazed at the health benefits of whole grains and real bread made from freshly milled flour. It doesn't surprise me, but it continues to amaze me and encourages me to go on. This is our 32nd year in business, and I'm more excited today than I was 32 years ago when we started. So I just want to thank you, Jennifer, again. And as always, thank everyone for listening today. Until next time, this is Sue Becker from Bread Beckers with Sue's Healthy Minutes.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Bread Beckers Incorporated, located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.